Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting for November the 14th, 2022. If we could call the roll, Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondek.
Present.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Here.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner Wexler.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here. We'll now rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Chief, if you would lead us. Prior to this meeting at 6:15, we did meet in executive session to discuss a legal matter. Next on our agenda is a swearing-in ceremony for the first Ward Commissioner-elect, Brian Gondek. Brian, if you would come forward. Joining us today will be the Honorable Alicia Mancini-Dewar, our newest member of the Magisterial District Court. And Brian's family.
Yeah, let's swap over.
No good? Everything good? Okay, I, Brian D. Gondek, Esquire. Oh, yeah.
I, Brian D. Gondek, Esquire,
Do solemnly affirm that I will support, obey, and defend.
do solemnly affirm or swear,
Affirm. Using the Bible to swear. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend.
do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend
The Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
And that I will discharge the duties of Commissioner in Haverford Township
and that I will discharge the duties of Commissioner in Haverford Township
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Welcome back, Commissioner Gondek. Sure. Let's take a moment for photographs. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next on our agenda is a proclamation from Commissioner Cavender. All right.
Thank you. Aren't you? Right.
They're not present. So
Okay. To make a proclamation, whereas M&M two-wheelers at 606 West Lancaster Avenue opened in Haverford Township in 2007, and whereas M&M two-wheelers is a valued member of the community, not only as a local bicycle store, but also through its community participation in civic organizations, Discover Haverford, and as a host and sponsor of local events. And whereas 70% of small businesses close within their first 10 years, M&M Two-Wheelers is celebrating 15 years of bicycle sales, service, and expertise to the Haverford and Bryn Mawr communities in the same location. And whereas M&M Two-Wheelers is a valued member of the community, partnering with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society team in training, I Can Bike Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, the Bicycle Club of Philadelphia, Cystic Fibrosis Cycle for Life Ride, in addition to providing free safety checks for bicycles donated through HIAS, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, to refugee families. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners hereby congratulates M&M Two-Wheelers, owned by Havertown native Kevin Meehan, on the occasion of its 15th anniversary and expresses appreciation for its many contributions to Haverford Township. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. Next item on our agenda is the Citizens Forum. This is where we have 20 minutes of registered speakers and also 20 minutes for anybody in the audience who would like to speak on an agenda item. Registered speakers are first. Our first registered speaker is Peter Puglianese. Did Peter hear me?
You're on. You're on.
Sorry, sleep at the switch. Peter Puglianese, 654 Lawson Avenue, a member of the Environmental Advisory Committee. I thought I was going to go on after Joy and Victor. I just wanted to add my support to the composting ordinance updates that have been that are on the agenda for tonight. I wanted to commend Joy and the township for all the work they've done over the last few years, educating, advancing composting, increasing backyard composting, and composting pickups throughout the township. And I just want to emphasize that everything that has been done, everything that will be done is actually reducing taxes and expenditures in the township. And also wanted to say thanks to Joy and the township for preparing a successful recent grant application, which I don't think is officially announced, but it's a substantial grant, which will further advance composting. I also want to thank Parks and Recreation for its multiple grant applications to advance the Darby Creek Trail. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Next on our list is Joy Baxter.
We're gonna get two for the price of one.
Imagine that. Excellent. We'll get Joy Baxter and Victor Baxter.
My name is Joy Baxter. I live at Sue Ellen Drive in Havertown, and I'm co-chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee.
And my name is Victor Barsky. I am an appointed member of the Environmental Committee, and we're speaking today in favor of the suggested composting ordinance revisions. Going off script a little bit, lived on Bambi Lane for 35 years with my wife and 2 children, and we've been composting for the last 10 years, not only because of my thoughts, but my wife is a master gardener, and she said, we have to do it because all the other master gardeners are doing it. And I have found that as a guy, I said, okay, sure, but it doesn't smell. It cuts our waste majorly down. I see everybody putting out trash. I could put out trash maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it's amazing how much you can compost. Now I'll go back on script because Joy wrote it out for me, so I figured I might as well do it here. Only about 2% of Haverford Township people compost right now, and we're hoping to double it to 4%. The current ordinance states that food waste is not allowed in the compost piles, but does not address compost bins. We feel that the compost needs revision to give clear direction to residents on the best way to compost in Haverford Township. Backyard composting provides many environmental and financial benefits to our community. It reduces the chemical fertilizers for plants and lawns, increases retention of moisture in soil. It does carbon sequestration, or trapping between 9 and 14% of carbon in the soil for as long as 100 years, and reduces the amount of municipal waste being incinerated in Chester. Using the average of very local data from Mother Compost and national EPA data, we estimate that 33% of our township municipal waste by weight is food waste. A third of what we need would be reduced going to the landfill and or the incinerator. That means each household that composts food reduces the trash by around $30 a year. Backyard composting is the gold standard in composting because no fossil fuel is used in transporting or turning food waste during the composting process. For these reasons, Haverford Township has been supporting a backyard composting program for both that trains residents on how to properly compost and afterwards offers substantial compost bins for purchase by township households. And here's the bin over there, which costs around $30. Along with the bins, we sell pre-cut pieces of hardware cloth to put underneath the bins. Are you going to show that, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Continuous support is available for composting. All right, so that's my little story, but the bottom line is that I find that it really works really well. There's no smell. What I have at home is a 2-bin metal bin that rotates. So one, you pile the stuff in there, and the other one's cooking. And it's worked out really, really well. And on that note, I will turn it over to Joy.
So then now to the concerns. What about attracting rodents? There are two main ways of mitigating rodent intrusion. The first is a physical barrier. So see on this bin, it's enclosed on the top, and you might be able to see there's a hardware cloth at the bottom. That is so that rodents cannot burrow up into the bin. So that's a, careful, it's sharp. So that's why we offer that to the residents, and they get trained during the compost workshops. But we know also that squirrels and Victor and other rodents can do a number on plastic. So how do we counter that? So putting only vegetables, fruit, tea, and coffee food waste into the bin and covering it with leaves reduces the rodents from wanting to go in. Lastly, hot composting conditions above 145 degrees Fahrenheit create an unsuitable condition for rodents. As most backyard composters do not reach these temperatures, we suggest that no meats, bones, or oils be composted in a backyard compost bin unless they meet these conditions. So given these constraints, we would argue that the risk of attracting rodents to backyard compost bins is much lower than bird feeders. And won't it smell? Asked my son. Most of us are aware that composting can produce smells because of the township's history with our leaf composting operation. The difference between the large operation and home composting is scale. The smell issues that occurred with the system do not represent backyard composting. However, compost can smell if it is too wet and has too high a ratio of nitrogen to carbon materials in the bin. That is actually a common problem when people start out, and one that I had. It's hard to believe how many leaves you actually need. However, the smell is isolated to the bin itself. I could not smell it until I opened the bin. In addition, it is easily fixed by mixing in more carbon materials such as shredded leaves, and this is covered in the composting workshops. And now I have show and tell. So this is finished compost from the bottom. You would get at the bottom of the bin that I got. And this is like starting compost. It was kind of going for a couple days at the top of my bin, and you're welcome to. And what happens is from the top to the bottom, microorganisms and worms break down the waste into final product. Thank you.
This is like a liberal wine tasting. And now that was funny. I get some credit for that. Thank you, all three of you. That concludes the registered speaker portion of the Citizens Forum. We now invite anybody in the audience who would like to speak on an agenda item. I will start here on the left as I do. Anybody in the front here? Anybody in the back? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Helene Conroy Smith. I live here in Haverford Township. So I'm coming up here because I have some concerns. once again, and I noticed that last evening there was no notice of the agenda, and I know that you're all aware of that because an email went through. Mr. Berman allowed you to know that. And so I just want to say that under Senate Bill 554, Pennsylvania Sunshine requires for public meetings to have at least 24 hours advance notice, as well as an agenda requirement to all public meetings. Now, I just want to say, Mr. Berman, I feel like I'm being gaslit, and I'm just going to let you know that, because I had 3 screen captures and several different devices when I captured those times. And I received this notice today, which does not line up, okay? So you can see that doesn't line up today. This is almost a half over, so people can see, okay? I'm not sure where this is, that IT sent this to you, that it was sent out last night. It was not on there. It was not posted. When I checked early yesterday, it was not on there, the agenda. When I checked last night, it was not on there. When I checked early this morning, it was not on there. It looks very different, too. I sent an email because that's the only way. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. It was not on their agenda, was not posted. So again, I'm wondering why this agenda was not posted, and we as taxpayers have a right to know about that agenda. Does anybody, I guess we're not going to answer that now, we'll talk about that later. The other thing, resolution number 23-2288-2022. It is an motion that the Haverford Township hereby requests multimodal transportation fund grant for $693,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. Down below, it says, be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners does hereby designate David R. Berman, our Township Manager, as the official to execute all documents and agreements between the Township and Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to facilitate and assist in obtaining that requested grant. Now, that's for some kind of either roundabout or some stop signs or traffic light at Beaumont Avenue and Glendale. And I'm concerned that here we are, township people, that we elected all of you, and now you're sending it over to Mr. Berman to execute all the documents. I think that there should be some discussion with the township to what's going to be there, especially the residents. I'm well aware that we're going to be putting in a trail down there, and that also is going to increase traffic because people from out of town will then be using Beaumont and Glendale to get down there. It's pretty crowded sometimes on the weekends for Mary Place. Again, I'm a township person. I live here, I go here, and I'm out in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Good evening. I'm Todd Hall. I live on Country Club Lane in Haverford Township. I'm very concerned about 2 incidences of violence involving firearms in our township on Sunday. It's a reminder that issues of crime should be paramount to any other concerns of this township, not abortion, not plastic bags, not composting, but it's not. We had 1 incident that involved a connection to the YMCA.
Mr. Hall,
Yes,
now is the time for people to speak on agenda items.
the police report is this item. Sorry, I didn't identify that. Fair point. We had an incident that had a connection to the Y. If this was a bar, it would be shut down as a nuisance bar. It has created a large amount of crime. When it comes to this situation of rising crime, there's no excuse for this. At the last meeting, I saw a commissioner who did start to show some signs of concern, but then concluded, COVID's been very hard on the kids. No, the response to COVID has been hard on the kids, to some, but not to all of them. That could have been any of us in traffic when there was gunfire resulting out of leaving the YMCA. That can harm us. Could not composting harm us? Potentially. Can it be done voluntarily? Yes. But there's not an issue to pick or choose if we're going to live somewhere where gun violence is just a part of everyday life. I would like you all to align your priorities with ours. Thank you.
Is there anybody else on the left side of the room who'd like to speak? So moving to the right side of the room. Is there anybody in the first row? Hold on 1 second. Anybody in the first row? Anybody in the second row? And in the third row?
President Holmes, will there be an opportunity for items to be discussed that aren't on the agenda?
Yes. A reminder to folks that later in our agenda is is the continuation of citizens forum for non-agenda items. So if anybody thinks of anything between now and then, they're free to get up and speak on that issue. Okay, having finished that, I know we will have a police report from our chief in a moment to address some of the issues that Mr. Hall raised. Ms. Conroy Smith, I have satisfied myself, as I believe the other commissioners have, that the agenda was published at the proper amount of time. I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, and we don't expect to cut it that close in the future. With regard to Mr. Berman, authorized to execute our documents and agreements. This is not something unusual. Anytime that we enter into grants or other situations where we need to deal with the state or other government entities, we often designate one of our township officials, whether it's Mr. Berman or whether it's Ms. Cuthbertson or whether it's Chief of Police Viola, to act as our representative in executing those documents. They still need to be reviewed by our solicitor, and we cannot delegate to any of our officials the powers that we maintain as a board. Therefore, how much money we spend, any construction work, anything that addresses zoning. These are still things that would need to be done at the township level and in public at a township meeting. But as far as the day-to-day negotiations and conversations and ultimate execution of documents, we routinely delegate to other officials within the township to do those tasks. So I think that addresses the issues that were raised. We will now move to
Mr. Hall,
the next item in the
She
agenda.
also addressed the issue of the multimodal grant and what was happening at Vermont and Glendale. And that has been an open agenda item for at least the 15 years I've been here. We originally, when I was elected, we received approval from PennDOT to put a signal there, a three-way light. We deemed that was not cost-effective and wouldn't work well based on the current configuration of the roads coming in at different angles. So it's been studied. We've had meetings. My quarterly meetings with constituents have been discussed with the residents. What we're doing is we're working with PennDOT and engineering companies. We have an RFP out for engineering firms for the design of that. Has been discussed. One of our big concerns, at least one of my big concerns, is protecting the people that live on Glendale Road. A circular solution would impact their ability to get in and out of their driveways because there's just not enough space there. So we're looking at alternatives and moving the road over, straightening it out to a more of a T intersection. PennDOT came in about a year and a half ago and realized that we had right turn, keep moving signs there that were not on record. So it is a three-way stop, and that has alleviated accidents. It is a high accident area, not serious, but there are a lot of fender benders there when it was right turn, keep moving, because if you came down Vermont Road, you didn't know the other people didn't have to stop because you looked over and saw a stop sign. So it has been dealt with and talked to with the residents locally. It's been an issue there. The traffic has been a problem with those right turn, keep moving things. We've alleviated some of that with the all-way stops, but people still do that. But now we want to, with the addition of the path going down to connect to the Upper Darby Trail on Darby Creek, that intersection needs to be straightened out. And we've taken steps very publicly to do that by purchasing the house on Vermont Road to have the land available to have the space for the trail off of the public property, off the state road there. So that's what's been going on, and it's been very open, and the residents of that area are aware of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wexler. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Commissioner Committee updates. Do any commissioners have any update to provide from any committee they chair? Hearing none, we will move to the Police Department crime update. Chief, this is something we normally do at our work session. We don't have a work session in November, so I invite the chief and deputy chief forward to give the monthly report.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to address the two incidents that happened last night. I think they're very important to answer one of the gentleman's questions also. At approximately 5 o'clock last night, there was an incident at Darby and Eagle Roads where a weapon was discharged at a moving vehicle. Police received a report of a disabled vehicle around 5:45 to 6 p.m. at Quaker Lane and Darby Road. Upon police arrival, they talked to the occupants of the vehicle. The vehicle had a flat tire and discovered multiple gunshots, holes in the vehicle. In talking to the occupants of the vehicle, it was found that there was some sort of dispute at a basketball game that did occur at the YMCA, and they moved after the game down Eagle Road to Darby Road. The occupants of the vehicle felt that something may have happened because afterwards, because there was words were exchanged. And with that, they did not know that they were being fired upon. The person in the back seat realized that, and luckily there was no injuries. Upon police investigation of the intersection, we found multiple shell casings at the intersection and a piece of a semi-automatic weapon in the highway. The officers secured the scene very quickly, closed the intersection. We called detectives in, brought lights in, and did our investigation at the scene. We have identified 3 of the suspects and working to a conclusion, which I can't go any further at that because it is an active investigation. So rest assured, we have that as a priority 1 item. And as I spoke to you in executive session, it's very concerning. As me as chief of police, I haven't seen this amount of violence in this township since I've been here for 53 or 54 years. So very, very troubling. We work hard to stem the flow of this, but I'm afraid the world we live in is really upside down. The people can carry weapons and have no qualms about shooting a weapon in a moving vehicle in a major intersection anywhere. So it is a concern, and we're working towards it. Deputy Chief Hagan will address the second incident.
Good evening. Last night, approximately 7:42 p.m., officers were dispatched at 200 block of Friendship for a robbery that just occurred. It turned out to be a robbery and a carjacking. A gentleman delivering Chinese food to a address that was called in to the 200 block of Friendship was set up by the robber. The robber appeared, began talking to him. At that point, ordered him down onto the ground, displayed a weapon, and at that point took his shoes and his vehicle. We have since recovered the vehicle. The gentleman wasn't injured, and we're following up all possible leads at this time concerning the carjacking.
Any questions on those 2 incidents, Commissioners? All right. The monthly chief's report for October of 2022, 19 criminal arrests, 8 juvenile arrests, 95 traffic citations, 8 non-traffic citations, 136 written warnings, 446 parking tickets. A burglary at 2528 Haverford Road, the Next Stop Coffee Store, which is formerly Pepper's. The owners arrived and found that the door ajar and glass was broken. Radnor had a similar burglary during the same overnight hour. Investigation is ongoing. Aggravated assault, 500 block of Achille, a delivery driver and a resident argued over driving too fast. The driver drove on the lawn and almost struck the resident. No injuries reported. The investigation is ongoing. A sex offense, 500 blocks of Oxford for an indecent act. Victim reports he observed a male in a work van perform a sex act on themselves. Suspect is charged with indecent exposure. We had 5 thefts from autos, 3 of them where catalytic converters were taken, and 2 of them was an unlocked vehicle, and 1 was a broken window where a bag was removed from the vehicle. Canine usage. Building search at the unit block of West Eagle Road, assist Radnor, Sproul, and Darby, vehicle stop on Westchester Pike, and unit block of Haverford Road for possible burglary in progress. And we have mail thefts. We had 12 for the month of October, and they continue. There's a police department that's investigating right now. They have 2 suspects in custody for mail thefts, but this is a continuing problem, as you well know. And I will urge again, the holiday season is here. Let's all try to be very, very careful. Having things delivered to your house, this where things thefts arise from the front porches. If you can't have it delivered to a address, if you're expecting a package where someone can pick it up or have a neighbor grab it, so it's not sitting out all day long. And also remember, it's leaf season. When the signs are up, please don't park on the street so Public Works can grab those leaves. There's a lot out there this year. Just one added note, we retired K-9 Barr last Thursday, a 9-year veteran of the police department. K-9 Barr was named after Officer Norman Barr, who was killed on line of duty 55 years ago at Landillo and Darby when he was struck by a vehicle. Officer Valvardi, who was his handler, thought that when he got K-9 Barr, he wanted to honor Norman Barr's memory. So 55 days to the year that Norman was killed, we retired K-9 Barr. So with that, concludes my report. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Chief. Deputy Chief.
Chief, excuse me, Chief. Can I ask one quick question? How have things been around the stadium, the Wawa, and so on with juveniles in the township?
It decreased dramatically. With the increased lighting, increased police presence, we've seen a marked decrease in what has happened there. And with the 7 or 8 people who have been charged, some of them are still out there on social media making noise, but we're very much on top of it. We have identified the actors, and we will continue to do so. So we had an incident over the course of the month where one of the people involved in this whole melee of incidents over the past month was in the stadium, just being a little obnoxious. But we nipped that in the bud very quickly. So the extra lighting and the extra police presence, the lighting was the most important thing. It's helped tremendously. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Chief. Deputy Chief. All right, we will move on to the Bureau of Fire update. Commissioner Wexler?
Yes, for the month of October, there were 142 fire calls throughout the township. The average personnel per call was 14.6. There were 105 hours committed to firefighting and 187 hours committed to training. All 5 of the companies participated in Fire Prevention Week activities, visiting most of the schools in the township, all the daycares and the pre-K and kindergarten classes to teach the children about fire prevention, and all held their annual open houses at their stations. 13 members of the Bon Air Fire Company, Company 58, attended a hazardous material class, and the new computer fire reporting system is now live, thanks to our township IT staff, Director McClary, and Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator Steve Poole in the township. So there are kudos to those two for getting the system going and getting it live now. So all companies are reporting through there to the county and to the state. So we're in good stead for the going future now.
Thank you, Commissioner Wexler. We will now have an update from our Township Auditor, Mr. Anderson.
All right, well, first up, I got to say that Connor, you finally look refreshed. I imagine you can't have slept much this past month, given that the Phillies were in the World Series. But I also want to say, Brian, congratulations, and it's a hard-fought victory, and I think it says something that you did something like Brian Fitzpatrick does, Matt Cartwright does, and that you won your district when they voted the other way nationally. Congratulations. I hope you serve your people well, and also hope you did a better job than Steve DeMille at keeping your hair. It might go great, though. I got to warn you, but it might. But I also want to say I've reviewed the audit or the warrants and expenditures for this meeting. I found no irregularities, and all my questions were answered to my satisfaction.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next on the agenda is our Township Manager update. Mr. Berman?
Thank you. This year we had a ton of utility work in the township. Pico and Aqua, and frankly, the township, were all busy here doing work on electric, gas, water, and sanitary sewer. I'm hoping next year is a little bit lighter, but I'll give a brief preview of some of the information that we have so far. We met with Aqua today about the 2023 water main replacement projects. The first one is going to be the most inconvenient, and that is Lawrence Road between Westchester Pike and Eagle Road. And they're planning to do this work during the day. They have to replace a water main, and they're going to need to detour Lawrence Road according to Aqua. We're still waiting for the detour details. But this typically would happen from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on most weekdays during approximately a 4-month period. That would be March through whatever 4 months later is, July, I guess. So they're going to contact the schools. They're going to work with the businesses to minimize the disruption. And we'll have a lot more details that we'll communicate to the residents in the coming weeks and months. Some other smaller projects, but for those that are living on these streets, no less disruptive. Cricket, Berkeley, Oakford, Normandy, Clifford, Morris, St. Mary's, Georges, Oakford, Woodcrest. That whole neighborhood is, Aqua is going to finish the water main replacement project in that whole neighborhood. So it'll be disruptive, but at the conclusion of the work, we'll have fully paved streets, and it should be very nice. Landover Road from County Line and Haverford to the entrance to, I believe it's the Radwin Apartments over in Radnor Township. And so we're hoping that'll be daytime flagging work as well. Leadham, Norman, Treaty, and another one that may be a little bit more disruptive, Glendale Road between Oakway and Fairview Avenue. And that includes Terry Circle and Nancy Drive. They're going to hopefully do daytime work there as well, most likely flagging. And again, all this work is typically from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Berman, do anybody have any questions for Mr. Berman? Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our regular meeting of October 11th, 22. I will take
Yes,
the
I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 11th.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any questions, deletions, additions to the minutes? Berman, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next on our agenda is the approval of warrants.
Mr. President, motion to approve the following warrant, number 11, 2022, totaling $5,822,118.65. General and Sewer Fund payroll for October 13th, 2022 in the amount of $703,754.74. General and Sewer payroll for October 27th, 2022 in the amount of $722,695.27. General and Sewer Fund payroll for November, that should say November 10th on the agenda, November 10th, 2022 in the amount of $685,017.67. General Fund disbursements, number 11, 2022, in the amount of $2,817,078.10. Sewer Fund disbursements, number 11, 2022, in the amount of $100,432.46. Community Development Block Grant Fund disbursement, number 11, 2022, in the amount of $170,416.30. Capital Projects Fund disbursement, number 11, 2022, in the amount of $223,664.01. American Rescue Plan Fund disbursement, number 11, 2022, in the amount of $384,925.17. Credit card statement ending October 27th, 2022, in the amount of $14,134.93.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next on our agenda is tax assessment appeal stipulations. We have two of them.
Mr. President, motion to approve the settlement and stipulation of counsel in the matter of an owner-initiated property tax assessment appeal for the property located at 423 Lanark Avenue, DC Folio 220200676600, pending in the Court of Common Pleas, Delaware County, number 2021-010194, and authorize counsel and proper officers of the board to execute the necessary documents, and a motion to approve the settlement and stipulation of counsel in the matter of an owner-initiated property tax assessment appeal for property located at 213 Benedict Avenue, DC Folio 22-03-001-9300, pending in the Court of Common Pleas of Delaware County, number 2021-010196, and authorize counsel and proper officers of the board to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
Do you second both?
Yes.
Mr. Solicitor, do we need to vote on these one at a time, or can we vote on them together?
That is one motion. You can vote on one, since it's set on one, unless there's an objection from anybody that wants to separate them out.
Great. Hearing none, we will consider these two motions together. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
No.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We now move to ordinances. The next item on our agenda, ordinance number P11, 2022, composting. This is a first reading.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I'd
Commissioner.
like to make a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P11, 2022, amending ordinance number 1960, adopted June 30th, 1986, and known as the General Laws of the Township of Haverford, further amending Chapter 138, Property Maintenance, Article 4, on-lot compost piles to provide for composting containers and additional compost regulations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions or additions or deletions?
Mr. President, I did discuss this with some amount of clarity in our work session in the previous month, knowing that we were almost there. I just want to extend my thanks to the Environmental Advisory Committee, specifically Joy, for really working through this with us. As you can tell, this is a great passion for Joy, but also to our township staff. This took a great amount of time because we really worked through the issue. So thank you especially to our township manager, Dave Berman, our police department, and to our codes enforcement department, who all played a part, and our township solicitor, of course, for their part in making this the ordinance that it is. Thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to add, I want to bring up, we talked a bunch at the last meeting and tonight again about the benefits of composting, but the added benefit of having this ordinance in the care that Judy and members of the codes department and the solicitor put into effect is that if someone is composting in the backyard now, there's a specific ordinance that the codes can point to make sure they're doing it properly. It gives the mechanism to the township employees to not only work with people to compost in a way that would be both beneficial to the environment and not intrude on their neighbors, but it also gives them the tools that if someone is composting improperly, so that it is causing a disturbance amongst neighboring properties, that it gives them something to point to make sure it's done properly and to clean it up before it becomes an issue between neighbors on the left, the right, rear, wherever. So this ordinance does multiple factors that is also beneficial, but also gives the members of codes and the members of the police department the tools that are necessary to sort of aid all the residents to do it properly.
Thank you, Commissioner McCluskey. Commissioner Hart.
Yes, for the most part, support, I'll vote for the ordinance, but I do think the maximum dimensions of the compost piles or bins are appropriate for probably any of the houses in my ward. But for some parts of the township that have acres of land, they certainly could accommodate a bigger pile or bin than we're allowing in this ordinance.
Noted.
It might be worthwhile in the future to amend it to size of lots and allow for a larger pile or bin on a larger property.
Excellent. Well, let's take that up after we consider the ordinance tonight. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I like the idea of having this ordinance since it would, if more people do this, reduce the amount of material we put into the landfill, and given the skyrocketing costs for our tipping fees, that would only be good. I would hope there'd be a lot more educational opportunities for people so they know how to do it right, so that we don't have any problems that would require codes to come and make a visit for remediation, shall we say. And maybe look into any kind of programs to assist people to acquire that impressive composting bin over there, in the same way with that we have the blue recycle barrels for folks. Thanks.
Right, and I think it does bear repeating what Peter mentioned earlier. I mean, every pound that is not put into our trash is money saved for every resident in this town and in our budget. We pay for trash pickup per pound. When the trash trucks pick up your trash, they bring it to a dump and they're weighed. So anything that is not put in the trash is a money saver.
And this will also help with the rodent issue that that we all get calls about, I'm sure, and this will help with that, to cut back on that, and codes will be able to solve those.
And I could speak from personal experience. We have been using the private outfit Mother Compost for, it's got to be a year now, and we collect stuff for 2 weeks at a time. It sits in a fairly small container outside of the house. It does not attract rodents. We have gotten 2 good-sized bags of compost at the end of the season delivered to us by Mother Compost, and it is amazing how much it has cut down on our trash. And it's the worst trash that you're getting rid of and you're putting in the compost. You know, it's coffee grounds, and it's fruit rinds, and I find it very effective. So pleased that we're doing this and that we've removed the impediment for folks to engage in this. So good work to everybody who had something to do with this. Is there anything else, or shall we call the roll? We shall. Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler. Yes. Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next on our item, another ordinance number P18 of 2022. This will amend Chapter 104 of the Housing Code. This is a second reading.
President, make a motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance P18, 2022, amending Chapter 104, Housing Standards, Section 104-11, inspections prior to occupancy required fee, to provide for additional inspection standards, and Section 104-13, renamed Fire and Life Safety Requirements, to provide for additional requirements for fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, fire alarm systems, fire doors, exit signs, and lighting.
Second.
As you recall, this is an update. This concerns mostly rental properties in the township to get them up to standard so that we have greater safety inspections. It also kind of catches us up with the new construction codes that are the national ones that we follow for our building inspectors that require wired, 2 sources of power for fire alarms and different fire safety things that go into the new construction as we've adopted the national codes for buildings. So we're trying to catch up on the rental property. We have a fair amount, and this cleans it up and allows us to inspect in greater detail for the rental properties and also keep up with the national standards like we do for our new construction properties.
Thank you, Commissioner Wexler. Does anybody have any questions or comments on ordinance number P18? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item is ordinance P19 of 2022. This is the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, relates to their terms.
Mr. President, motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P19, 2022, amending Chapter 35, Senior Citizen Advisory Council to adjust the term lengths and meeting frequency of the Advisory Council.
Second.
And will this go into effect this year, or is it the people that are on there now, do they just stay on for a year, or do we have to reappoint them? at this year's meeting?
This would be set to be second reading in December, so it would be effective with your appointments in January.
Does anybody know, are we going to stagger these, or is it just going to be 2 years? We're only going to do, as a board, we're going to do these every 2 years?
Well, the way it's written, there's no stagger in it. The other comment I would make, that unlike any other board, that we're saying that if a new commissioner comes on, they can replace the board member, which I think that should be taken out. I don't see why
That's a good point.
we don't.
I was going to ask, does that role exist in any other
No,
committee?
it doesn't.
So if the new one does not like whoever is on
Right.
it, well, they can oust them.
Just directed at me, is this?
It's too hard to find somebody to serve to begin with.
Yeah.
The other thing, the way
Mr.
it's written, it says that the appointment is from 2 years from when the person is appointed. Now, we often get to March or April and don't have somebody appointed, which would mean they'll run into that next term. I think we need to change the language.
So, Commissioner Hart, this is your motion, right?
Well, I didn't write this, but.
No,
It's my motion.
not what I meant. You moved it, therefore you control this right now. So, and it is a first reading, which means we can do anything we want to it tonight, and we just can't have substantial changes between the first and the second reading. We would like this to be effective starting in January of 23. I think that's the goal. It would seem to me tonight that we can lay out the outline of this ordinance, pass it, and provided that we then draft something that is then adopted in December in substantially similar form to what we outlined tonight, I would think that would be an effective ordinance unless my solicitor violently shakes his head back and forth right now.
If you advertise the ordinance in December, even if it doesn't take place till January for the second reading, what was advertised in December would be effective in January, assuming that that ordinance was enacted under the pending ordinance doctrine.
So it would seem to me that we want to note that these terms are from the are 1/1, they're through 12/31 of the next following year. So whenever they get appointed in April of 23, they're through April of 25. I would also suggest that our odd-numbered wards, for their first pick, just do a 1-year term, and the even-numbered wards do a 2-year term, and then that we stagger them so we're not taking out an entire board all at once. But you've also given this a great deal of thought. Are there other? And I think once appointed, somebody should fill out their term. I can see how that would make. I can see what the thinking behind that, which is that this is one of the few where we just each individual ward commissioner picks their representative for this board, but at the same time, we don't do that for anyone else.
Yeah, we don't do it for the EAC, where we also are appointing.
So, do you?
I don't know if we need to stagger this. I feel like that might be
unnecessarily
it might be
complicated.
unnecessarily complicating the changes we're making before December, and also given the unique nature of this board. I don't know if it's necessary to stagger them.
I agree with Commissioner McCluskey. It's an advisory board. I don't see the need to do it. We typically, once you get somebody, they're typically reappointed a couple times anyway, because it's very difficult to approach somebody and say, could you serve on the senior citizen board? And I'm old enough to do it, and I think I'd be offended, but it would be, it's hard to find. But since they're advisory and not quasi-judicial like any of the other boards or anything that we do, they can take any action. I think it's not necessary to stagger them, but.
I guess the only thing I would consider, though, is that our terms run in odd-numbered years, and if we're whether or not we want the first two-year term of these folks to expire at the same time the commissioners' terms might expire. Our terms expire at the end of odd-numbered years. So that would mean postponing the two-year appointment for another year, but I don't mean to complicate things.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'm generally just okay with keeping the two-year terms from the date of the appointment, but I would make a motion to amend this to strike out but the member's term shall automatically expire if and when the commissioner of the ward who made the appointment no longer holds their office as commissioner. Just strike that.
I would second the amendment.
Well, first, for formal purposes, the person who moved this, Commissioner Hart, has to accept the amendment to the motion, and then whoever seconded it has to accept it as well. Commissioner Hart, do you accept
Yeah, I
that
accept,
amendment?
although, just to clarify, not from the time of the appointment, but which would run for 2 years, ending at December 31st, at the end of the
following year.
Of the following year.
If I could ask, Commissioner Hart, obviously this was your motion, and I know it was based off of your conversation with the commission, the organization itself. The general premise was just simply to expand it to 2-year terms, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so,
Yeah, there was a feeling, especially this year's board has been very active, and it's in the midst of a senior survey, and if we were to, they were looking for some continuity so that they could follow through on things.
so if we were to approve the motion as it's been amended, basically all we're doing is simply saying everyone on the board, on that committee will have 2-year terms that start this coming January, so January of 2023 to December of 2024, right?
Correct.
And that's basically all we're changing.
Exactly.
I'm good with it.
Who seconded this motion?
I did. That works.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the ordinance that has been accepted by Commissioner Hart and also accepted by Commissioner Wexler. Are we sticking with, but it's not 2 years from the date of the appointment, it's 2 years, it's the expiration of the year following the appointment.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. And we're striking out any issue of the automatic expiration upon the resignation or departure of a board member. Okay, with those amendments, any other questions or comments? Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next on our agenda, we're now on the resolutions. Next on our agenda is resolution number 2280 of 2022. This is an easement agreement about the cell tower.
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt Resolution 2280-2022, approving an easement agreement with TIGR Acquisition 3 LLC of Atlanta, Georgia, for the property located at 9000 Parkview Drive, Haverford, Pennsylvania, also known as Marple Road, 0 Marple Road, also known as 3500 Darby Road, also known as DC Folio number 22-04-10503-00.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2281-2022, approving a license agreement with TIGR Acquisition 3 LLC of Atlanta, Georgia, for the property again located at 9000 Parkview Drive, Haverford, Pennsylvania, also known as 0 Marple Road and also known as 3500 Darby Road, and DC Folio 22-04-10503-00. 2023-00.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item on our agenda is resolution number 2282 of 2022. This is the Caracong Drive closings for recreational use scheduled for 2023.
Mr. President, motion to adopt resolution number 2282, 2022, commencing Sunday and only on Sunday, January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, from 7 a.m. to dusk, including the following holidays: Tuesday, the 4th of July, 2023, Thanksgiving, Thursday, November 23rd, 2023, and Christmas, Monday, December 25th, 2023. And the Board of Commissioners designate Haverford Police Department's Chief John Viola to execute any documents with PennDOT and be responsible for the safety and welfare of residents utilizing Caracong Drive.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next resolution, resolution number 2284 of 2022, the Delco Greenways Grant.
Mr. President, motion to approve resolution number 2284, 2022, approving the filing of an application for the Delaware County Municipal Grant Program Assistance in the amount of $500,000 for the Darby Creek Trail Extension and directing execution and filing of the appropriate forms with the Delaware County Planning Department.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes.
could we have some more information about this particular grant and what it will do for our township?
Absolutely.
So these resolutions, both this one and the next one, authorize township staff to apply for two separate applications for grants. And they're in support of the Darby Creek Trail Extension from Merry Place to Warrior Road. These additional grant monies would help fund the 10-foot wide paved multi-use trail from the current endpoint at Merry Place to McDonald Field, Warrior Road. Conceptually, these projects have been on the books, or this project has been on the books for a little bit of time, and we believe that the funding for that project is going to exceed the amount that we had originally planned to expend. So we're hoping that these grants will allow us to apply for $500,000 each to extend that trail and get the best trail possible.
Thank you for that explanation.
Anybody else have any questions or
What's the
comments?
general turnaround on these particular grants in terms of when we apply to when we find out?
The Delco Greenways grant is usually pretty quick. DCNR takes a little bit longer. Brian Barrett is here.
Okay.
We have any other questions or comments? So still on resolution 2284, Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Now we will move to resolution 2285 of 2022, which is the DCNR grant for the Darby Creek Trail.
Mr. President, motion to approve resolution number 2285, 2022, approving the filing of an application to the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for a grant in the amount of $500,000 for the Darby Creek Trail Project and authorizing the township manager to electronically sign the grant application and any amendments thereto.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, resolution number 2286 of 2022. This is the use of police radar or LiDAR.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2286, 2022, urging the Pennsylvania legislature to pass legislation that allows municipal police departments to use speed radar or LiDAR.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
I would ask Chief Viola if he could comment on this. It seems that this would be something that he is supportive of, I assume.
Absolutely, yes.
If you could comment as to what exactly it is we're asking the state legislature to do, just so people watching can understand.
Certainly, Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity. Pennsylvania is the only state of 50 states that has not allowed the local police to use radar. There's a misconception from some of the legislatures in Harrisburg that local police departments will use it as a money-making scheme. Keep in mind that any moving violation that a police officer writes for a violation, a minimal amount goes to the township, possibly $25. That's about it. The rest goes to the state. So it's a tool that we could use to enforce speeding violations. Right now, we are still using the old-fashioned way, whether it be a registered speedometer or a handheld device, which is basically a handheld timer. This has been proposed by the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police for a number of years. Gets on the agenda and it always dies a slow death. So with your support, hopefully we can get this moving forward again. It's a tool that it's used by police departments for the safety of the operators in Pennsylvania.
And is this, will you consider this a valuable tool in terms of addressing the constant speeding that goes on in the residential neighborhoods of this township?
Without a doubt. Right now, Commissioner, it's almost impossible for us to enforce speed limits of 25-mile-an-hour zones. For the simple reason we have to give an operator 10 miles over the speed limit, so it puts them at 35 or 36 before we can enforce. So with radar, you can enforce like 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. So you have an accurate read on residential streets where we get constant complaints of speeding, where it's almost impossible for us to make a legal enforcement.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I would just add, you have to call your local, like in our township, Representative Vitale. This has died. For the last 2 years, I've been president of the Delaware County First Class Township Commissioners Association, and this past year, the Eastern Association of Commissioners. We've had this on the agenda for the last 4 years, and it gets to the state legislature and dies a slow death with all the horse trading. It's primarily the representatives who represent the cities, the large cities. They're afraid that it's going to be used to target drivers, and it's become an item to where it's horse traded for other bills that get passed. So you really have to. We're sending this letter up, but it's been lobbied for the last 4 to 6 years, every year in Harrisburg. And unless we put pressure on our legislatures to do this, it's not going to get done.
And don't just call our state rep. Call all of the state reps who vote against this, or bombard them with your calls too.
And Commissioner, if I may, one of the most recent proposals went to Harrisburg to only allow this to go to accredited police departments, which we are one of them in the state. So it would push for more police departments to become accredited, and also allow for more teeth that the equipment would be used properly.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. President, in fairness, I do want to mention that the Senate has passed it twice, and it's the House of Representatives where we're not seeing movement on it.
Always dies in the House, you're right.
Yep. But it does have bipartisan support. We've seen that time and time again. It unfortunately just never makes it across the finish line. So I specifically did not put any House bill or Senate bill because their legislative session is ending this year. But I wanted to continue that urgency around this because I have heard from the constituents time and time again that speeding is a major issue in our community, and we hope that this will support our police department in enforcing. So thank you.
Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item on our agenda, resolution number 2287 of 2022, a proposed subdivision 2 and 10 Ardmore Avenue.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2287, 2022, the minor subdivision lot consolidation plan for Peter and Sally Murphy and Carol DeColey, 2 and 10 West Ardmore Avenue, Ardmore, PA, Haverford Township, Delaware County, known as DC Folio numbers 22-04-00014-00, comma, 22-04-00012-00 and 22-04-00174-00 has been submitted to subdivide and extinguish an undeveloped lot, parcel number folio, parcel 3, folio number 22-04-001-00, fronting Darby Road to transfer 9,280 square feet to 10 West Ardmore Avenue, resulting in a lot area of 26,330 square feet and 6,920 square feet to 2 West Ardmore Avenue, resulting in a lot area of 26,952 square feet. Each of the two properties will continue to be used as single-family dwellings with no new construction proposed. The subject properties are located in the 4th Ward. The aforesaid plans were prepared by Herbert McComey Jr., PE Consulting Engineers and Surveyors, Inc., Broomall, PA, dated June 22nd, 2022, and last revised on August 26, 2022, subject to the recommendations of the Planning Commission. I need a cup of water. Jeez, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll just bring up that, once again, we're not requiring sidewalks. And I think, we talk a lot about walkability, about adding sidewalks. If we're not going to add the sidewalks, if a goal is not to get them onto Ardmore Avenue, I've got to question where we're going to be putting them, because most of my ward has sidewalks, most of Connors does, most of Larry's does. It's the bigger roads that aren't safe to travel on, and either are going to have to say we want to do this or not.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
I am overall very supportive of the concept of adding sidewalks, and generally I actually would be at this property. However, in this case, we're literally changing the lot lines. There is no planned construction or development occurring. So for them to change the lot lines for this property, they would be incurring a great cost. And so I'm supportive of keeping as is for this purpose.
I think we still, as a board, need to address what I think is a hole in our ordinance about sidewalks. I'm prepared for
Our
us to
solicitor
decide as a policy.
is working on that.
What's that?
Our solicitor is working
Right.
on.
So, and I think once we've done that, it will be. I think at that point, the Planning Commission will have clearer guidance from this board, and then any effort to, and any debate about whether a sidewalk is or isn't necessary, I think will be a debate that basically will be. We'll start with an appeal from a homeowner, to get, to ask this board for a waiver and have to explain, why, and hopefully we work into it some type of fees. But I think in these circumstances and with the language we currently have in our ordinance, I agree with Commissioner Trombetta that I think this situation here, we go with what the resolutions before us that does not include any requirement to construct sidewalks where there are none. Any other questions or comments?
I'm just going to bring up, again, we need to commit as a board if we're going to do this. And these are the roads that we would need to put it in, and people are not there's going to be opposition to doing that. So let's not just talk about this. Let's move forward with something. I'm not trying to make these homeowners suffer with this, but I've been on the board for 5 years, and we've never required a sidewalk when someone has requested a waiver. So again, let's move forward and start talking. Let's get serious about doing this, or stop talking about it.
Mr. Hart, or Mr. President,
Yes.
I would just say that I, again, would support that. And I, in particular, would support the language that's being prepared if it specifically said something about with new development. In this case, again, we're talking about a lot consolidation plan where there's no plan development. And that's part of where that's the decision that I'm making.
I mean, you have to look at our zoning laws. This is technically a subdivision, not a lot line change. Technically, it's a subdivision. That's why it's called that, and that's the time. I mean, and I agree with Commissioner Hart. We've got major issues. You can't walk to our major recreation areas. The Creek is the most inaccessible place from Darby Road. Steel Field, there's no sidewalks on the Hilltop Complex. It just doesn't make sense. We've got to start doing this.
Which is why I brought up and am willing for us to entertain a ordinance where we make the definitive statement on sidewalks and not rely on the language we have in it now, which just says on a case-by-case basis, the commissioners can decide what to do or not to do. Planning Commission doesn't have guidance on it. Some people in the Planning Commission think there should be sidewalks. Some people in the Planning Commission don't. Some people on this board think there should be. Some people think there shouldn't be. Some people are somewhere in between. What we shouldn't do is continue to live under a system that creates this debate every time. These folks are not building anything. These folks are not asking the township to do anything other than recognize just new lines that will only exist on a page for folks. I don't think for them to do that and swap property with one another, we should impose a duty to construct a sidewalk, whether it's a subdivision, whether it's a gift, whether it's however we characterize it. I don't think it's the same as somebody taking empty space and building a new building on it. I don't think it's the same as anybody creating building a business or within our business districts. So I think in this circumstance, it would amount to an unfair burden on these owners for what it is they're asking us to do. But that said, if an ordinance gets before this board where we state as a public policy that anything that comes before this board regarding any kind of development, any kind of subdivision, anything, starts with the presumption that sidewalks are necessary, and it falls on the owner to come back to us with a list of reasons why they shouldn't, I have no problem with that. And I've suggested that we put that in front of this board and vote on it. But for right now, under the current legislative power that we have and the rules that people live by, I think this is the right result.
Well, we certainly have the power to say that we want sidewalks there. So I mean, again,
we have no standards written in that. We don't have any. We've not established the basis for people to seek relief from that. It is just simply in our discretion to say whether we do or don't want sidewalks.
I'm going to disagree because most of the time when things have come to us, the Planning Commission has recommended sidewalks, and we've said we're going to grant a waiver. So
we haven't done that every time. That's not true.
In my 5 years here, we have done that 4 times now. This is the only time that the Planning Commission did not make a recommendation.
I'm going to have to take your word on that, Commissioner Hart, but regardless, they are doing that without legislative authority from this board to demand sidewalks. We do not have it. It is not in our current law. I'd like our law changed, but while we're operating under our existing law, this is I believe, the right way for this one to proceed. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
I believe we should be getting an updated, thank you, comprehensive plan soon, which will involve us looking very hard at the way the township has done things, since our previous comprehensive plan. And I think there'll be a blueprint there for what ordinances we need to reconsider, redraft, rewrite. And I think that what we do with sidewalks needs to be part of that rewriting in the new vision that's going to be outlined, I hope, in this comprehensive plan, which we will be receiving. So I'd like it to be part of I would prefer that if we're going to talk about sidewalk ordinances, that it would be part of a unified, coordinated effort to make Haverford Township more friendly to pedestrians and bicyclists so that people can get places safely and leave their cars behind. And that would mean having a lot more sidewalks and bike lanes and looking at ways to make the main arteries more friendly for alternate modes of transportation.
Thank you, Commissioner Forresty Grubb. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Mr. President, not to belabor this, but
Too late.
I do think there's some urgency to getting this done sooner than our comprehensive, finalizing our comprehensive plan. And I think that because every time we have a meeting where something like a subdivision comes up, this is, left to our debate. And so I'd like to see it done sooner, but it sounds like that's already happening. So thank you, Commissioner Hart and our, sounds like Township Manager, for working on that.
I do agree with you, Commissioner Trombetta, that I think this is something that we should address in its own on its own issues and in its own right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Based on what's specifically in front of us tonight, I vote yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
No.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Track. Okay. The next item on our agenda, resolution number 2288, the PA multimodal PennDOT PI multimodal transportation grant, Vermont and Glendale roads.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution number 2288-2022 that Haverford Township hereby requests a multimodal transportation fund grant of $693,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to be used for the reconfiguration of the intersection located at Vermont Road and Glendale Road to improve the safety of the intersection and to facilitate access to the Darby Creek Trail. And be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners does hereby designate David R. Bourbon, the Township Manager and Secretary, as the official to execute all documents and agreements between the Township and the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to facilitate and assist in obtaining the requested grant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
I do have a brief question.
Yes.
So my understanding is that this is just to request the grant, the funding. But is there actually a plan that's been approved for this money, or is it just we're going to get the money and then work out the plan?
So the background is last year the township was awarded $1 million grant through this same program. The grant itself requires what's known as an intersection control evaluation. And so that's when our engineer looks at the cost benefit of various options and alternatives. No decision has been made on what's going to happen at that intersection. However, Pennoni did prepare the cost benefit analysis, and PennDOT we discussed it with PennDOT representatives after that. They indicated some feeling that a roundabout or a traffic signal with a realignment would be appropriate. But again, a final decision has been made. However, if either of those options are to come to fruition, we're going to need additional funding. And PennDOT representatives suggested that we apply for this funding. And so that's what this grant application is all about.
Thank you.
Yeah, basically, the $1 million wouldn't cover what PennDOT would want us to do.
You could have said it that way.
It's like,
Anybody else want to restate it? We're good to go here. Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next on our agenda is energy procurement, the Municipal Utility Alliance, Pennsylvania Municipal League. Entertain a motion.
Motion to authorize participation in the Municipal Utility Alliance through the Pennsylvania Municipal League for 100% renewable power generation for a 2-year period to begin December 2022.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Do we know the difference in cost between the renewable and non-renewable?
I can give you some insight on that. Non-renewable came in about 6 cents a kilowatt hour, and renewable about 8. There was a 2-cent differential.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess I'll take that question a step further, not knowing how many kilowatts we generate. Has anyone looked at the total number and what the difference is, or
Yes.
approximation?
Yes, if you recall, back in August, we had a discussion of this publicly where we were, mulling around the different options, looking into the CoStarz program through the state and then the PML program through Pennsylvania Municipal League. The state had its auction earlier last week, and the prices came in higher than the offering through the Pennsylvania Municipal League, so that's why we're going with them. We're going with the lowest cost price. We do use, just as a point of reference, about 4.3 million kilowatt hours a year. Okay, so the difference, just going from where we're at, which is really a indicator of just the market that everyone is aware of energy costs. Right now, we pay about 4 cents a kilowatt hour, and even brown power is going up to over 6 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's a huge swing whichever way we go, just because of the energy costs that we're all dealing with. So this new contract that we'll have for 2 years, and we did it for 2 years, hoping the market will soften in the next few years, and there'll be a few more options to deal with. But right now, it is what it is, and it'll be $140,000 impact, of which, though, if you recall from that August discussion, we are coming off of our EME, which is the Energy Made Easy program. That's how we finance the streetlight retrofit to LED. So we'll be saving approximately $110,000, $108,000 from that. So the net difference should be around $20,000 a year. So considering the state of energy right now, that it's pretty palatable.
Does anybody have any other questions for Ms. Cuthbertson? Or for anybody?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I just wanted to note that I do believe that the Board of Commissioners before my time approved a climate action plan, which included moving to 100% renewable energy. And so this is in alignment with that. And I think several years before the targeted date.
Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. Any questions or comments? Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next item on our agenda is the purchase of a Zamboni for the stadium.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve the purchase of a Zamboni 552 AC electric ice resurfacer from J&C Ice Technologies of Flanders, New Jersey, in the amount of $155,951.75 via Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program.
Second.
This is an electric Zamboni, not a gas or diesel. It's purely a fully electric vehicle for the stadium.
The NHL is moving to electric Zambonis. Did you know that, Commissioner Wexler? Any questions or comments?
Just two quick ones. One is, are we getting this because our existing Zamboni is in need of replacement, or are we getting it because it's electric?
Both. There's two Zamboni. One is end of life and it's maintenance. This is the replacement.
Okay.
There is a spare one. Obviously, if one goes down, we have to shave the ice every time to keep the stadium operational. So yes, it's replacing an outdated one and moving forward with an electric vehicle.
So at that point, will we have three Zambonis? Because I
The other
believe
one-
I heard that we
the
were
other
going
one
to
get
keep
traded
one.
in.
Pardon me?
The other one will get sold or traded in.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Also within purchases, Parks and Recreation, Grassland Park, playground equipment.
Mr. President, motion to approve the purchase of playground equipment from Recreation Resource USA, Kenneth Square, PA, under CoStar's number 014E22-249, in the amount of $35,426, funding to be paid with CBDGB.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, services engagement continuation.
Aye.
You have to make the motion to table it.
I motion to table that.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion to table this motion and a second. Please call the roll, Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes, to table.
Commissioner Wexler.
Yes to table.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes, to table. Next on our agenda, the continuation of citizens forum for non-agenda items. Is there anybody here on the left-hand side of the room who'd like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Road. I don't have anything formally prepared, so you'll forgive me. I spoke last time that we were here. I was very concerned about the safety issue with our teenagers in the schools. I'm still concerned about that, obviously, and I was not prepared to speak tonight, but in what happened last night with the shooting in regards to the YMCA, I have no choice but to get up here and speak because, once again, we made the news, and not in a good way, and I just want the board to know that I would really like everybody's focus to be on safety in this town because it's outrageous how this is going downhill. When we joined the Y, and when the Y first opened, there'd be little thefts here and there, a jacket, and then, maybe this little things in there. Then it was your cell phone. Then, okay, you start using the lockers, take stuff out of the lockers. Okay, we'll put a lock on the lockers. Don't you know they would come in with literally something to cut the lock right off your locker. And you'd have to start bringing the things into the room with you or leave it in your car. Your car would get broken into. Finally, we had to quit the Y because it was just getting ridiculous. The Y has been nothing more than a glorified nuisance playground. It has contributed to the rise in crime. The police are there constantly. I would actually like to request a copy of all the crimes, if we can, from the police that have occurred there in the last 5 years. If that's possible. Is that possible to do, Chief?
You have to do a right to know request.
Okay, I will do so, because I think you'd be shocked at how often the police are there. I don't think you guys realize how often the why is how often the police are there. If somebody almost died last night, I don't know what else we have to do to express how dangerous that place is. We're inviting people from out of town that don't belong here, that are using this place without any regard to our town, and they just come in and steal things, and I guarantee they don't live in this town and they have no regard for it. So I would just into Hodge's point, maybe to make it safe. We're not saying to shut it down, but maybe to make it safe for more, just for the sake of this town. Just because, once again, I'm scared. My kids are still scared to walk around town. They're still not feeling safe just because they locked up a couple of their perpetrators of the crimes from last month. They still don't feel safe. My middle son is still begging to go to private school. We don't have the funds for that. I don't think that's very sad. His friends still don't want to go to Haverford schools anymore. They're still walking around with two of the kids one that taped their friends, had the video camera. He's still walking around this school. And one of the other kids that participated he's still walking around the hallways. That's disgusting. So now you're adding a shooting on Eagle Road. I don't know what else has to happen. Does somebody have to die? What else has to happen to make this town safe? This is Havertown. This is supposed to be, they used to call it Brady Bunch land around here. Now it's like a joke. People are saying Haverdelphia, Haverhood. It's embarrassing. My sister-in-law didn't want to send her kids down here to play with my kids. She said, "Oh, it's too dangerous there." Have you guys ever heard that about Havertown before? We got to do something. All the compost and all that stuff is great. I know you guys have to do that. I know it was an agenda item, Mr. Holmes. I know you have to put an agenda item on there, but we have to start talking about safety. It's got to be on there. I know that Chief Viola addressed the meeting in the beginning, but maybe if we could start talking about town watches. I mean, we started a town watch, but maybe if and a temporary lighting, maybe we can make it permanent lighting. Whatever we have to do to just start getting priorities and focus on safety first. I'm sorry it wasn't a very formal speech, but.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson. Is there anybody else here on the left who'd like to speak? Anybody here on the right? Yes.
Major H. Ross Peterson, United States Army, retired. I live on Derwin Drive. Economics is a science of how we can best allocate limited resources amongst our unlimited wants and desires. You have human resources, material resources, that intangible resource called time. We also have financial resources, okay? Whether in our own personal lives or our own Haverford Township community, both entities are constrained by our limited financial resources. In many instances, among all its programs and projects that the Haverford Township's Board of Commissioners are responsible for making policy decisions on, it's how to allocate the township's limited financial resources in a fashion that provides its residents with the greatest benefit for how those financial resources are spent. They are the economic watchdogs of our township's financial resources. So who on our Board of Commissioners is an economist or trained in economics or has any background in economics? Who among our township commissioners is using the principles of economics to evaluate the positive and negative economic impacts that those resultant policy decisions will deliver to the Haverford Township businesses, homeowners, and residents, and any prospective and future Haverford Township business owners and residents. You see, Haverford Township's in competition with its neighboring townships far and wide to attract businesses, homeowners, and residents to Haverford Township while retaining its current businesses, homeowners, and residents. You know, there are very few better truisms than this, quote, people vote with their feet, end quote. Now, Haverford Township has an environmental advisory committee, and it consists of 9 members. I'm sure they're all very well qualified on environmental issues, and I'm sure each EAC member has submitted detailed financial disclosure documents to our Board of Commissioners to ensure that any recommendations made by the EAC will not result in a conflict of interest between what would be in any EAC member's own personal financial interest and any recommendation the EAC would provide to our Board of Commissioners. I'm sure the Board of Commissioners will publicly post each EAC's members' financial disclosure documents for all township residents to see, or request that it be done as soon as possible. I would like to raise one issue with the EAC. It seems that 3 of its 9 members are associated with a company called Solarize Delco, which can be found on the internet at solarizedelco.org. Look it up on Google. They have the internet on computers now, as Homer Simpson says, okay? Solarize Delco sells the concept of solar energy systems, encouraging the sale and installation of solar energy systems. Although it may not sell solar energy systems directly, it does sell solar energy systems indirectly by its advocacy for solar energy systems. It claims to be a nonprofit 503c3, and I'm sure it's as pure as the driven snow. I have no personal knowledge that in the history of our great nation that any nonprofit has ever acted illegally, unethically, or immorally. Furthermore, one of the 3 EAC members that is part of Solarize Delco is also a member of a firm that sells environmental health and safety services to the private sector. Once again, I'm sure that all the required financial disclosure documents have been submitted by that individual and the firm that he works for. That way, it will ensure all township residents can review these documents in order to put their minds at ease that there are no conflicts of interest. Unfortunately, I could find no evidence that any of the EAC members has any background or experience in economics. So I would highly encourage the Democratic Commissioners Holmes, Trombetta, Cavender, McCluskey, and Forrest Grubb to contact Solarize Delco in order to have a solar energy system installed at your residence as soon as possible, all right? Each of the 5 identified commissioners have consciously decided how to best allocate their limited personal financial resources, and each of those 5 has decided that a solar energy system was not one of their priorities in which to spend their hard-earned money on. Hopefully, each of those 5 will demonstrate that highest level of leadership, that being to lead by example by having a solar energy system installed at your residence so you can share your personal experiences as well as any positive or negative economic impacts with us and all of the Haverford Township residences. Lastly, although I am not an economist or a degree in economics, I have had undergraduate, graduate level training in economics and finance, and have taught college level economics and finance as an adjunct professor at Gwynedd and Mercy College. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. I would like to direct a comment to the Chief of Police. Unfortunately, when I was a teenager, I'll share it with everyone, I received a few speeding tickets. They were written by several different police officers. I ignored them. My license was suspended. I don't think that the radar detection systems are just a moneymaker. What they do is they enforce our laws that need to be enforced. And as a result, points are added to drivers' records, and those higher risk drivers identified by speeding tickets pay higher levels of insurance. What is the scam are photographic speed cameras that are in various cities. They are, in my estimation, the real cause for concern for profit and revenue generating systems. Thank you.
Ms. Baxter.
Hi, Joy Baxter. I live at Sue Ellen Drive in Haverford Township. I am co-chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee, and we welcome everybody to come to our meetings. We are very open. I don't have a job. My whole job is volunteering. The people who work with Solar Ice Delco are all volunteers. There is absolutely no financial benefit to any of them. They are losing money. We are really bad at economics because we are volunteering our time. I could go out and make money instead of doing the things that I am doing. The people who are in the Environmental Advisory Committee and have dedicated to the environment and to helping without any financial obligation are enabled to get independent advice, not going to a solar company. This is independent advice. And I am ashamed that people are questioning in public and not coming directly to the people who are there to ask questions.
Ms. Baxter, thank you. Thank you for your service. I can assure all the members of the advisory board, the Environmental Advisory Board, that the Board of Commissioners appreciates greatly their volunteer efforts, as well as the volunteers of all people in Haverford Township who sign up for our boards and commissions. So thank you for that. For the record, I have a bachelor's in economics. I was a commercial banker for 2 years and was actually bond counsel for this township before I ever ran for office. So I bring some experience, as do many of my colleagues to this board. When we consider our decisions, we consider the economic effects of our decisions, we consider the political effects of our decisions, we consider all the ramifications of the decisions that we first consider and that we make. And I certainly appreciate anyone's feedback on that, whether that feedback is positive or negative. But I do, in particular, want to push back against the notion that any of our volunteers on any of our boards are in this for some profit motive. We do not get financial disclosures from the people who volunteer for our boards. We all do financial disclosures as elected officials. It is our duty. No board, with the exception of our zoning board, has any authority to do anything. Otherwise, all of our boards are advisory boards and provide for us perspective and provide for us, at times, expert analysis and different perspectives for us to consider when we're considering the multitude of things that we as commissioners have to consider that stand before this board. So thank you all. Is there anyone else who has anything to say in the Citizens Forum for non-agenda items? You have spoken, Major. I'm afraid your time is up. Anybody else? It doesn't matter. You've spoken. You sat down. If any, no. She spoke in a non-agenda item. Sit down, Major. You have said your piece.
Totally different topic, and it will be just less than a minute. Less than a minute.
It is 3 minutes after 9. Go ahead, Major. Go ahead.
We have 2 Zambonis and 1 rink. All right, now, I've got a car with 4 tires. I have one spare tire on it. I'm not exactly sure why we need 2 Zambonis for one township rink. All right? I'd ask people to get a little bit more in tune with critical thinking on why we might need 2 Zambonis for one township rink. Just think about your spare tire. I only got one spare tire in my car. I got one in each car, but I only have one spare tire. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jerome?
Commissioner
We're now
Holmes,
moving on to other business. I'm sorry, new business. Is there any member?
Actually, I wanted to speak one more time.
No.
Actually, stop.
If it's an agenda and it's open to the public to speak, I'd like to speak briefly, please.
Mr. Hall, Mr. Anderson is up. Then then I will call on you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Anderson is here, then I will address you.
She left. I'm Todd Hall, but I'd like to speak.
I said Mr. Hall.
Okay, I thought you said commissioner.
I did not say commissioner, okay?
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Mr. Anderson.
I want to say you have 2 Zambonis because if one breaks down, you have another one to back it up. Just like you have a spare in case you blow a tire. You really only need that one spare. I also wanted to address this notion too that was brought up earlier. I can't let this go. COVID has killed 1,070,000 people in this country. It's been devastating, and I have a coworker who lost a sister and an aunt to it, and it has been serious effects. It's not the reactions that's been the problem. We may have screwed a few things up with how we handled it, but it's COVID itself that's been devastating. I also want to mention too that yes, crime is concerning. It has been up compared to recent years, but overall, like the trend recently has been going down, and also we are way below the levels still of what we were in like the 1970s and 1980s. I do get it, it's still concerning, but we still are in a much safer society than what we were decades ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I've done my stats.
Mr. Hall, I apologize. You did speak earlier on an agenda item. You are now free to come up here and speak on a non-agenda item.
Yes, certainly. The answer may surprise you. The stadium, I think, is a great asset of the township. I have gone there with my family. It's a great thing to go to. If we were at a event and it had to be called off because there was a breakdown in the Zamboni, I would honestly be disappointed. I'm glad there's a backup Zamboni. I have an electric weed whacker. I converted. I really like it. It's helpful. I like the feeling from supporting the environment when I use it. So to have a spare one, maybe it's a little bit of overkill, but I think it's good to have a backup. Thank you.
Mr. Hall, thank you. And I will, let me say this about a Zamboni. I don't know about anybody else in the audience here, but I skate. I play hockey at the stadium twice a week. The stadium ice is shaved at least 5 times, maybe 6 times on a very busy day, maybe 8 times a day. So the notion of a Zamboni shutting down for even as much as 48 hours shuts the stadium down. You cannot, if any of you know anything about skating, you cannot go out on the skating rink in figure skates with your coach and learn anything if you're following 20 goons who've just gotten off the ice after playing ice hockey, because it's hacked to death and you might as well go out and play in your own backyard. So it is crucial to have two Zambonis. And the fact is we're getting a state-of-the-art Zamboni that is expensive. But it is now, I look to the NHL as an example, and Canadian rinks are now turning to electric Zambonis. They actually moved away from Zamboni itself and have gone to a Finnish company, but I'm pleased that we're sticking with Zamboni. So, that said, we will now move to, does any commissioner have any new business they'd like to bring before this board? We move to other business. Commissioner Gondik.
First, I'd just like to start off by saying that I'm very humbled to the special election this past Tuesday. Thank all those who supported me. Guess it helps if I actually turn the microphone on. Seems to be a perpetual problem of mine.
Just thank everybody again.
What?
Just thank everybody again.
Yeah. Just wanted to say again that I'm very honored and humbled to have been reelected at the special election, or elected at the special election this past Tuesday, and thank all those who supported it and helped me. I look forward to working with the Board of Commissioners over the next year. I know there's a lot of great things that are in the works and that we're going to be working on together. I look forward to that. I also look forward to continuing to work with all of the great township employees that I've met and got to know and worked with these past couple months and moving forward into the new year. So thank you, and I look very forward to it. On another note, since Thanksgiving is coming up, a happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Everyone please be safe when they're out. Obviously, Thanksgiving, I don't know. I know pre-COVID it was. I don't know if it's still the night before Thanksgiving, the biggest bar night of the year with lots of inebriated people. Just while you're out celebrating the upcoming holidays, just please be conscientious, both for yourselves and those around you. Touching base on some comments that were made with regards to crime, I just wanted to say that yes, there have been a string of very disturbing incidences that have occurred in this township. I was born and raised in this township, and I know a lot of what's gone on and happened over the years. And the last couple weeks have been rather traumatic, to be honest with you. But I do want to just assure the people here and the people watching this that our police department is secondary to none. And they truly, truly are working very hard to address these situations. What causes crime, we can get into, a variety of discussions. What we need to do to stop crime is a much more in-depth conversation. But I just want to stress that while I understand that when people watch these board meetings, when people come to these board meetings and they see us voting on resolutions to purchase this or to approve this subdivision or to appoint this person to a committee, those are the standard business practices of the township. It's one of the major points of these meetings. It's one of our major responsibilities. Just because we're not approving a specific resolution with regards to crime doesn't mean that it's not on our minds. It doesn't mean that it's not a deep concern of ours. It doesn't mean that prior to a meeting or after a meeting on a random day, myself or one of the other commissioners isn't calling up the chief of police to get an update. What's going on? What's happening? When things occur in this township, we get notified. And I will tell you that our police department takes everything very, very seriously. And they are working their hardest in order to maintain public safety for the residents of this township. I understand that the optics can be somewhat confusing at times, but the gist of my point is that there is a lot that's going on. I just want to assure people that there is a lot going on, quote unquote, behind the scenes, in order to continue to make Haverford Township a safe and great place to live. Maybe we can work on putting a little bit more of a public face on that and getting some optics out there, and that's something that I think that we can chew on and contemplate and have further discussions on. On a brighter note, the Westgate Hills Civic Association is hosting their Christmas tree lighting on December 4th at 4 p.m. at the park. There'll be a gingerbread house competition, free hot chocolate. It'll be a fun family event. I encourage all those to come out and attend. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondik. Welcome back. Commissioner Forsti-Grubb.
I'd like to extend my congratulations to Brian Gondik. I look forward to working with you for the foreseeable future, and because there's a lot of exciting things happening in our township. There are so many people that make our township great. We have the people in Public Works who are working tirelessly to collect 3,500 tons of leaves, roughly, during the 6 weeks of leaf collection. And they They spend hours and hours and hours doing that for us. We have an amazing police force that works hard to keep our community members safe, that work to make sure that people are stopping at stop signs, that when there's an accident, there are police officers there to guide traffic and to write the reports and to make sure that people get home in one piece. I'm very grateful to our police department, our public works, and everyone here at the township building who does their level best to serve our township. And people have often asked me, what surprises you the most? And I say, I am so pleased to see the devotion of everyone here working to the needs, fulfilling the needs of our residents, because it really is exemplary work. And I would also say that township safety is very critical, and there are many discussions that happen behind closed doors about what is going on in the township and how the police are taking steps to keep us all safe. But what I do find problematic is comments that suggest that crime comes from outside of Haverford Township, because crime happens everywhere, and everyone in a township is part of that. People who live in this township can also commit crimes. It doesn't come just from outside, and I don't think we should other the people who, I don't think people who come from outside Haverford Township should be blamed or made to be othered. I think it's a problem. Everyone should be welcome here. Everyone. And I will work hard to fulfill that goal, that ideal, as long as I am commissioner. Everyone should be welcome here to shop, to go to the Y, to play basketball games, to eat at restaurants. We are an open community, and everyone should be honored for their humanity and their individuality. And I will do that, and I will live that truth. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Forster-Grubb. Commissioner McCluskey.
Thank you. Just next week, in one of the most basic roles of commissioner, we do meet for the annual budget presentation. Township Manager Dave Berman will give a preliminary budget presentation. At that point, the budget will be released to the public. Certainly, I encourage everyone to take a look at that and to see where our money is allocated and the resources that we use to support the various departments within our township, and show our appreciation for the township employees who are doing their very best to make this a great community. The last couple of months, I share outrage at the two incidents that occurred last night, and I appreciate Chief Viola and Deputy Chief Hagan updating us, and I have every confidence in the world that our police department will use all efforts to resolve and to capture the people who committed these acts, and that they be put through the court system and punished appropriately. I do want to note that as commissioners, I respect our police department and believe that when it comes to incidents like this, that we should not have 9 different commissioners commenting to the public as to how police investigations are run. I think that would be wholly inappropriate. That's why Chief Viola and Deputy Chief Hagan speak with one voice on behalf of the township on incidents like this, because we have all support, we have all trust and faith that they will do everything that is in their power to protect the community and keep it safe and to investigate the crimes. And that's the role that they play, and that's the trust that we empower them to have. I don't think that indicates that any of us or anybody within the township, whether it's Parks and Rec are diminishing incidents of crime at all. And I think that it's just, we're as outraged as anybody else that someone would shoot on Eagle and Darby Road. But the way that is resolved is the police conduct an investigation and they attempt to arrest the people that are responsible for that. And I have every confidence that they will. Regarding that investigation, I'm not speaking out of turn by saying that the Y has cooperated fully with the police department in every possible way. But I would say that the Y is a really good neighbor to Haverford Township and a really good neighbor to the people in the Grassland Park area and a really good neighbor to the people in the Third Ward in particular. They utilize neighboring businesses up and down Eagle Road. They refer people to the local urgent cares. They buy their pizza for lunches from local pizza shops. They utilize Nolan Painting across the street. They host community events in that parking lot, not only block parties that they have, but anytime the township says we want to use some of your space, they're more than willing. They've hosted Coffee with a Cop that our police department runs to conduct outreach, and they host it within their lobby. Anything that the township would ask them or neighboring businesses would ask them, they try to be as good a neighbor as possible. And that's in addition to the hundreds of Haverford Township residents and other Pennsylvania residents that they serve on a daily basis. They host a book drop in front of their building for the Haverford Township Library. Every single event, if you look at every music festival that we have in Haverford Township, there is always a Y table. That is sponsorship for those Haverford music festivals. That is sponsorship for the First Fest that the Kelly Music for Life people run. If you go to events at the library, Haverford Y has a table at them. They are a good community member, and they're providing a valuable service for our neighbors. And if you don't believe any of that, I'd ask you to just look at any real estate listing in the Grassland Park area, and they all 99% of them will say walking distance to the Haverford Y, because it's a selling point, because it's a service that is provided for the community, and it's because it's something that makes our community stronger. Am I happy that there was a shooting at Eagle and Darby Road? Am I pissed off that it came from a stupid basketball game? Sure, I am. But let's try to keep the focus on what happened and how we can solve that moving in the future without demonizing a local organization that has done nothing but help our community. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner McCluskey. Commissioner Cavender.
Thank you. I want to join my fellow commissioners in congratulating Brian Gondek on his election on Tuesday. It was a really incredible election, and I can relate to what it's like to win the election and then show back up here 6 days later. Although I didn't have any experience with Leafs, with the Leaf schedule when I started. So I came right into that. I just wanted to say, Discover Haverford is hosting Shop Small Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. It's a great way to show up in town, patronize your local businesses, pick up some holiday gifts, and be part of the community. It's from 10 to 6 on Saturday. There's free parking, there's giveaways, there's live music from Kelly Center. The other thing I would like to say is thank you to our Parks and Rec staff and for our township manager for undertaking our Parks and Open Space Plan, that strategic plan for gaining engagement from our residents on how they want to use our parks. I'm lucky enough to have a park near my house, and I go over there, 4 or 5 times a week with my son. And it's a great place to meet neighbors. It's a great place to get some exercise. We would go over there a lot during the pandemic. And so I'm really supportive of and congratulate Parks and Rec for undertaking this effort to make sure that we're speaking to everybody and hearing from everybody on the direction that we want our parks to go in the township. So thank you for that. The survey is currently still posted on the website. I know we had one open meeting on the 9th last week. I don't know how good the turnout was, but I hope it was successful, and I know we're having more. So we'll look forward to more updates on that. On Tuesday as well, I just want to congratulate everybody in the township for our 80% voting rate. 80% of registered voters in the township voted on Tuesday, which is a huge number. That number is closer to presidential elections. And it doesn't matter how you voted. If you voted, you're a hero. These are our voices. Show up at the ballot box. Respect the process. Say your piece. And that's how it works. So I went to Haverford Friends, I went to Coopertown Elementary, and I went to Haverford College on Election Day, and I got to see folks. There was a lot of food out there. They had a waffle truck at the college. They had they had a big sale at Coopertown. So it's just a really nice way to spend time with your fellow neighbors, and in person too. I think just really makes a big difference. I would like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I think November is a great time to just think about gratitude in our lives for what we have. And that is all I have. I'll look forward to seeing you all next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. Commissioner Quinn.
Okay, well, while we're on the Y will have a Thanksgiving 5K run on Thanksgiving Day, and roads will be closed off. I'll be mailing that out, but it will impact wards 2 and 3 as well. There'll be a few roads there, so it will be impacting there. And back to the Y. I serve on the board of the Y. I was asked to join the board, and I can attest to they do a lot of good work for the town. And yes, there is some issues. So if you ever want to email me and ask me to bring things before the board, I'm more than thrilled to, because it's good to work with the Y and to have things out there. And to do the police, thank you for all that you guys do, and thank you for all you've done over the past month. I know things have been tough, but you guys are the best. You guys are always there for our board when we come to you and ask for things. So thank you. And leaves, I know they're about to start this week to come through my ward. They were supposed to come through last week, but there were issues and stuff. But it seems every year, right before they come through my ward, there's a big windstorm. So everybody's leaves blew right back onto other yards. So I got lots of calls about that. But I just want to thank Dan and other staff for all the work that they do. So thanks again.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn. Commissioner Hart.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I think there's still an Eagles game going on. The next public meeting of the Brookline for the Brookline Park project will be December 6th at 7 p.m. at the CREC. This is a follow-up on the initial meeting last month, and this meeting will discuss sort of initial concepts based on what was brought forward at last month's meeting. We'd also note that flu cases are up dramatically in Delaware County. I would urge people to get flu shots, even if you're otherwise healthy. If you've never had the flu, it's not just a cold. Put you out of commission for a week. So the flu shot is pretty effective. And I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioner Wexler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First, this Thursday is the Hilltop Civic Association meeting, where I also attend and give a quarterly update to interested residents on any topic. So if anybody's interested in that, especially in light of all the police incidents. The second is I support our police department. They're doing a great thing. But just remember, you look in the Inquirer every day, the Daily News, the Daily Times. The issue we're facing isn't our neighborhoods and people, it's guns. Guns are so readily available. It's crazy that a basketball game could spark a gunfight. We lost a young resident a month ago in Roxborough, was a Haverford resident. These kids are carrying guns around. These people are young people who are playing basketball. It's not people our ages. It's gun control is the thing, and guns are on the street, and they need to get off, and it would protect all our kids and residents, 18-year-olds that are playing basketball. I'll address the Zamboni issue. It's you were a military person. This is not really an economics issue. The two are there, as Mr. Holmes tried to explain, it's readiness. If we shut that thing down, we're going to have 18,000 kids a week that can't play hockey, can't figure skate and everything. It's needed to have a backup. Just like if you're in the Army, you have a tank go down, you have maintenance, you have a spare tank to fulfill a tank platoon to get them on the road if there's a readiness call out. Same type of concept. So it's not that we're overspending. We're keeping an economic viable recreation tool that we have here for all our residents in operation. That building is in operation almost 24/7. So it's not, they play hockey at 2 o'clock in the morning over there. So it's got to be up, it's got to be running. One goes out for maintenance, we have to have that spare unit. So, and I'd like to thank all that came out to vote last week. It was encouraging to be at the polls and have that many people coming in and out. I spent most of my day on Edmonds Avenue, and it was nonstop busy. And then I'd also like to have everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. I know a lot of kids are coming home from college. My kids are coming in from out of town. Just stay safe and drive safely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Wexler. Commissioner Trombetta.
Thank you. Just a few announcements. Between now and November 16th, residents of Haverford Township can bring your whole undecorated pumpkins to Omar's Garden Center at 15 West Eagle Road during business hours, or to Axel, quote, at Oakmont Farmers Market on Wednesday from 3 to 5:30 p.m. And this is another way of just getting rid of your undecorated pumpkins for composting. Special thanks to the Environmental Advisory Committee for leading that effort, and specifically Joy there. Also, thanks to our township, we do have an electronic recycling event on November 26th. Forgive me, I'm not remembering the specific hours, but please look that up. In addition, I did want to mention that SEPTA is hosting an open house, and the closest one for us is actually November 15th tomorrow at Lower Marion Administration Building in Ardmore. This is to go over what they've called their Bus Revolution Draft Network, which basically has plan changes intended to build bus service that's easier to understand and more reliable and convenient. This is still a draft plan, so I wanted to just make clear that there's an opportunity to give your input on it, and I would encourage you to attend. And then finally, I did want to just mention that the Planning Commission still is going through the process of developing a comprehensive plan for our township. Right now, they are in, I believe, the second iteration of a draft, working on a potential third iteration of a draft. So I just encourage folks, if you aren't familiar with the draft comprehensive plan, to please familiarize yourself with it. And I should mention that the township does have a website specifically designated to providing information about the planning process and linking to the plan itself. And that's at www.havetwp.org/comprehensive_plan_updates. And finally, just congratulations to Commissioner Gondek for his election. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. And finally, let me repeat Commissioner McCluskey's announcement. Next Monday, the 21st at 7 p.m. is our 2023 preliminary budget meeting. I can't emphasize enough how important this meeting is, and for everybody, the folks who are here tonight and folks watching on the audience. I encourage you to watch the meeting, and then if you can, to review our budget. And the reason I encourage you to do that is to get an idea of the amount of work that goes into preparing this budget and the amount of detail that is in it, so you can get an idea of what it is, the scope of the services that the township provides to folks, and the amount of effort that goes into running this township and delivering the services for its residents, and seeing that document in its whole will give you some appreciation for the amount of effort that goes into the work that our township staff and our township employees engage in every day. I encourage people also, while we're still in the process of doing the comprehensive plan, of going online and reviewing the comprehensive plan and reading as much of it as you can, read the summaries, read the entire thing if you have time. and not just rely on the word of mouth that's gone around about what it says or what it doesn't says. Read it for yourself. And if you have questions, ask any of us commissioners or all of us commissioners at a meeting if there's something that you would like explained or something that you want to provide feedback on. And finally, I just say, take a look at tonight's agenda, just to get an idea. Tonight's agenda might be the first time in a number of months where we really have a little bit of everything it is that we as a board are expected to do. And I know, and I sense some frustration on people's parts as they heard us talk about things that they thought were fairly unimportant in face of what happened last night. But the township business must go on, and our obligations don't change with regard to taking the steps we have to take for this township to continue to go on. So I ask people to look at those three things to get an idea of just how seriously everybody takes their jobs up here, how much work we put on our township personnel to deliver the services they do, and how much effort, how much volunteer effort, how much expert analysis, and how much real thought is going into our plans for the future of this township. I ask you to do that and then invite any questions that the review of those documents reveals to you or to any of your neighbors. With that, I wish you all a very happy and healthy and safe Thanksgiving for those of you we don't see at the budget hearing. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. The Eagles are still winning.